Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, and welcome to everyone to our council meeting tonight. We've got a nice little crowd here, so we appreciate everyone coming out. We call the roll, please.
Mr. Bachman?
Here.
Henning? Gorman?
Here.
Merkel?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Lieberman?
Here.
And Stevens.
Here.
I'll make a motion that we excuse Kenny Henning from the meeting this evening. He's out of town.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman to excuse Mr. Henning, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Mr. Henning is excused. Okay, our first item on the agenda tonight is we do have a special presentation for Dylan Greer. So if you'd step up to the podium. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. We've done a lot of proclamations with the city, but never one quite like this. And this is really, really excellent. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read it out, and then we'll present it to you. Clayton is proud to recognize Dylan Greer, a 2015 graduate of Northmont High School with honors, a 2022 graduate of The Ohio State University, graduating with majors in physics and astronomy. You get a congratulations from me right there. Dylan will begin his career in aerospace industry while enjoying life with his hobbies of golf, rocket building, and launching. Dylan was named first team All-American in dodgeball in 2020 and recently awarded Most Valuable Player in 2022. Dylan was player captain of the OSU dodgeball team all 4 years. Dylan received Big Ten recognition and was voted the best player in Ohio by the Collegiate Dodgeball Association. Dylan serves as a role model for our community. Has made the city of Clayton, our Northmont community, and the Ohio State University proud. I, Mike Stevens, Mayor of the City of Clayton, Ohio, do hereby recognize and congratulate Dylan Greer for his outstanding accomplishments and wish him the best in his future endeavors.
Thank you.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Can we get a,
Come up and get a picture.
yeah, get a picture. That's awesome. That's all right. Thanks for coming in. Go Bolts.
Dylan, how did you get out of going into the tool business? Like your uncle back there and your father?
Took some convincing.
I doubt he can even spell physics, your dad. I mean, that's...
That's awesome. Okay, we also, next on our agenda, we have 2 public hearings tonight, and I kind of would just remind everyone of the rules that we play under here in Clayton. The members of the public, if you could please remain quiet during the presentations. After the initial presentation, I'll ask Mr. Dorman to come up and give a staff presentation. We'll ask the applicant if he'd like to make a presentation. Then we'll ask the city council members if we have any initial questions or comments. Then we make a motion to open the floor to public comment. Each person will have 5 minutes to make their comments. Just in the interest of time, if we could kind of not have duplicates. And you'll be asked to state your name and address for the public record. After that, then we'll ask council for a motion to close the public hearing. And then at that point, we'll ask the applicant if they would like to respond. And then we'll ask the council members one at a time if they would like to respond, questions or comments. And then we'll have a motion to close the public hearing. And anyone that is here tonight that thinks they may want to speak, even if it doesn't mean you have to, but if you may want to speak, I need you to stand up now and raise your right hand. You'll be sworn in just for this hearing here. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give to City Council is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, signify by saying I do. Okay. Thank you all. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dorman.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Good evening, council members. I'd like to introduce the application. Application PC 2202 was received by staff on May 2nd, 2022 for right-of-way and easements plat for Grand Villas of Clayton. The applicant is the Kleingers Group. It's the engineer for Grand Traditions. It's the developer of the Grand Villas of Clayton project. Property owner is GT Clayton LLC, which is Grand Traditions. They signed the application affidavit stating that they are aware of and consent to the application. The Planning Commission held a public hearing for this case on May 23rd, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend that City Council approve the proposed plat. Public notice was printed in the Brookville Star on June 1st, 2022, and letters to property owners within 300 feet of the site were postmarked and mailed on June 2nd, 2022 for tonight's meeting. Location of the Grand Villas of Clayton project is 8495 Hoke Road, on the west side of Hoke Road, north of Winger and south of National. The parcel number is M60-03102-0032 and has an overall area of 15.144 acres. Next slide. The current zoning of parcel is PDD, Planned Development District. It was approved per ordinance OZC0502 on May 19th, 2005 as part of the original Village North Clayton zoning. Staff reviewed and provided to each city council member this evening the following documents: the application, the plat for the right-of-way and easements, and the Planning Commission's resolution for case PC 2202 recommending that City Council approve the proposed plat. Next slide. This is the proposed location, kind of circled in red. Next slide. This is the plat plan that you have in your packets. Next slide. Proposed plat is for right-of-way that the applicant is dedicating to the City of Clayton and access and utility easements that will run through the 15-acre parcel that will be developed as the Grand Villas of Clayton. Right-of-way on Hoke Road will be widened from 16.5 feet to 35 feet. This will provide additional space for the 10-foot wide multi-use path that the applicant is building and will dedicate to the City of Clayton upon project completion. The access and utility easements are being platted as well. There was a 10-foot wide utility easement to be located next to the proposed right-of-way along Hoke Road. There's a 15-foot wide sanitary sewer easement that will be located next to the 10-foot wide utility easement along Hoke Road. The entirety of the private drive would be encompassed in an easement and is labeled as an access and utility easement for the development. And finally, a 20-foot wide water line easement that will bring water down to the development from the Village of North Clayton. Next slide. After evaluating the applicant's request and providing an opportunity for public input, the Planning Commission unanimously passed a motion to recommend approval of the right-of-way and easements plat for Grand Villas of Clayton with the following condition: that the applicant must address the comments resulting from the staff review and emailed to the applicant on May 23rd, 2022. Those comments must be addressed for the submission of the plat for signatures. You have a copy of those comments in your packet. Next slide. I wanted to show a couple pictures out at the site. I took those this morning. I think it's exciting to see dirt moving and a wonderful project underway. Next slide. And for the discussion, I will leave up a copy of the plat, and I've kind of zoomed in on the Hoke Road just to kind of show the right-of-way and a couple easements there by the road. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is there any questions or comments for Seth?
How far back are the buildings set, Seth? I mean, you got a 70 feet of 35 foot of right-of-way, and then another 50 foot of easements.
Mr. Gorman, I don't have the exact measurement, but on the north side of the development, near the right-of-way and the easements will be the retention pond. South of that will be the clubhouse, and then behind those is when the buildings will be started.
And next time, can you make the printing on the points a little bit larger so that someone over 35 can read them?
Yes.
Anything else for Seth? Okay. And is the applicant present? Would you like to make a presentation?
So we heard kind of late today that the applicant's engineer was under the weather, was not going to be able to make the meeting tonight. I think the developer was going to try to join us by Zoom. I don't believe they're on at this time, but.
And there's no more questions for Seth at this time? Okay, then I would ask for a motion to open the floor to the public comment.
Move for, open the floor for public comment.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bachman, second by Mr. Gorman to open the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the floor is open. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak as an opponent against the proposed plan? Seeing no one there, is there anyone who would like to speak as a proponent for the plan? Okay, seeing none.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman to close the public hearing, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any comments or questions from the council at this time? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman, second by Mr. Merkel to close the public hearing. Okay, thank you. And now, no. Oh, yeah. All in favor of closing the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you. Okay, we have a second public hearing. Mr. Dorman?
Thank you again, Mayor Stevens. To introduce the application PC 2203 was received on May 5th, 2022 for a rezoning and a preliminary development plan for a new single-family residential subdivision to be called Northwood Estates. The applicant is Oaks Tree Development. The property owner is Keith and Mark Landis, and Mark Landis signed the application affidavit stating that they are aware of and consent to the application. Planning Commission held a public hearing for this case on May 23rd, 2022, and voted unanimously to recommend that City Council approve the proposed rezoning and preliminary development plan. Public notice was printed in the Brookville Star on June 1st, 2022, and letters to property owners within 300 feet of the site were postmarked and mailed on June 2nd, 2022 for tonight's hearing. The location of the proposed subdivision is at the northwest corner of National Road and Haber Road. The parcel numbers are M60-03012-0022 and M60-03102-0105 with an overall area of 33.69 acres. Next slide. Current zoning of the parcel is RSD, Residential Single Unit District, and the proposed zoning is PDD, Planned Development District. Staff reviewed and provided to each Planning Commission member the following documents for this evening: the application, the preliminary development plan, which is the site plan, a draft traffic study, Planning Commission's resolution for case PC 2203, recommending that City Council approve the proposed rezoning and preliminary development plan. Next slide. This slide shows the location of the site. It's circled in red. Next slide. This is an excerpt from the city zoning map that shows the zoning of the area. Generally, it's kind of located in the center to the top, but you can see that it is zoned RSD, and it is in the Clayton Improvement District. Next slide. Analysis of the request for the rezoning. The current rezoning on the property is RSD, Residential Single Unit District, and is located in the Clayton Improvement District number 1 overlay, and also the Special Area number 1. I've listed up there, and they're in your staff reports as well, the permitted uses for the current zoning. The next slide will show you the conditional uses in the same zoning district, RSD. Next slide. The proposed zoning on the property is Planned Development District for a proposed single-family residential subdivision. The PDD is best suited for what Plan Clayton envisions for this area. Plan Clayton labels this area as part of the Clayton Commercial Center and indicates future uses as any combination of flex, mixed, and parks. The property is currently located in the Clayton Improvement District number 1 overlay, which requires a rezoning to PDD for any development of land or assemblage of land with an area of 5 acres or more, or where more than 5 lots will be created, so the PDD zoning request is appropriate. Next slide. Looking at the preliminary development plan, the proposal is for a single-family residential subdivision with 113 lots. Access to the development would come from 2 access points on Haber Road. In addition to the 113 lots, there will be 5 new roads, 5-foot-wide sidewalks on both sides of each road, street lights, and utilities constructed to serve the development. The plan proposes several community and neighborhood amenities, including a 10-foot-wide multi-use path that will run the length of the Haber Road frontage. It's approximately 1,300 feet. 3-acre tract in the center of the development that will be home to one of the retention ponds, and the neighborhood park that will include a 4-foot-wide path leading from Street A to the playground and ultimately out to the multi-use path along Haber Road. A small 0.2-acre tract in between lots 34 and 35 on the western edge of the development. A 2.2-acre tract located along National Road frontage that will be home to another retention pond, and is also where the new sign advertising the subdivision in Landis Market is proposed. Next slide. The proposed typical lot size is 52 feet wide with the following setbacks. The plan shows a 25-foot front yard setback, 5-foot side yard setback, and 30-foot rear yard setback. We received a draft traffic study, which was submitted by the applicant's engineer, which primarily recommends a traffic signal at National and Haber to mitigate in part the traffic that will be generated by the proposed development. Staff does acknowledge that there is existing traffic in the area that contributes to the necessity for a signal at this intersection, including various community resources such as the Northmont Middle and High School campus, Kleps Early Learning Center, Sinclair Community College, the Y, Northmont Library that's under construction, Inglewood City Hall, and many businesses that already exist on National Road in Clayton and Inglewood. The city will continue to engage with the applicant to identify possible public-private funding collaborations for the traffic signal. Next slide. We have a couple tools in our toolbox. Start by looking at Plan Clayton for guidance. Plan Clayton envisions future uses to include flex, mixed uses, and parks at Clayton Commercial Center. Flex allows any combination of commercial, office, and housing, both in one area or in the same building. Mixed uses require more than one use within a building in the same area. Parks are green spaces that cannot be developed for other uses. The proposed Northwood Estates proposes detached single-family housing with green space. So that would fit into what's envisioned for this area specifically in the plan. Next slide. Plan Clayton outlines a number of main goals for the city of Clayton, including 1, creating walkable neighborhoods, 2, developing central cores, 3, connecting parks, and 4, making great streets and infrastructure. Northwood Estates hits squarely on all four of these main goals, and by utilizing the following best practices in its design: creating walkable neighborhoods with connected sidewalks, residential porches and stoops, a focal point, building edge, and street grid. Developing central cores, the development proposes to use durable materials, access control, street furniture for the neighborhood park, and a town square, in effect, is the centrally located neighborhood park. Next slide. Connecting parks. Again, the centrally located neighborhood park. 10-foot wide multi-use path that will connect to the existing National Road multi-use path on the south side via crosswalk and pedestrian signals, thus creating critical community linkages from the neighborhood to, again, the Northmont School campus, Village of North Clayton, the YMCA, Klepp's Early Learning Center, Sinclair Community College, the new Northmont Branch Library, and Centennial Park, to name a few. Making great streets and infrastructure. So there's, within the development, a sense of enclosure, bicycle lanes, the multi-use path, underground utilities, pedestrian scale lighting, and landscape standards. Next slide, please. Finally, we look at the Planning and Zoning Code for guidance. For the rezoning and the preliminary development plan, it comes primarily from three sections. Section 1111.21 is our planned development district. After reviewing that section, what's in front of you tonight appears to generally meet the design standards, area requirements, and planning requirements of the section. Next is 1111.22, which is our Clayton Improvement District Number 1, which includes the special area Number 1. And after reviewing the preliminary development plan, it also appears to generally meet the use, density, and general standards specified for Clayton Improvement District 1. Finally, we look at 1141.10, which has to do with rezonings and code amendments. This section addresses the application and the submittal requirements for rezoning, and staff found that the application generally described the proposed development and met the spirit and intent of the submittal requirements. Next slide. So the Planning Commission recommendation, they met on May 23rd. After evaluating the applicant's request and providing opportunity for public input, Planning Commission unanimously passed a motion to recommend approval of the rezoning and preliminary development plan for Northwood Estates with the following condition. The applicant shall address the comments resulting from the staff review and email to the applicant on May 20th, 2022. These comments shall be addressed and are provided as part of the final development plan submittal. If the rezoning and preliminary development plan are approved by City Council, the next step would be the submittal of the final development plan, which would be a full civil engineering package. It would include other studies such as geotechnical and the hydrology study looking at stormwater calculations. Next slide. And so for the rest of the discussion, I'll leave up the preliminary plan. One thing you'll note, if you can see it up there, is it does show the 114th lot that was removed with the plan that you have in front of you tonight. So, and that's just, if you look at the southern entrance from Haber, it's the first lot on the north side of that southern entrance to Haber, so that one's been removed. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is there any questions or comments for Mr. Dorman?
They want a drop lane at both entrances off of Haber, in both directions, I believe it says. And also, the way I read it, they have too many lots for the amount of ground that they have. And because we're giving them the right-of-way and another piece of property, they can just about come up to it, but they still can't reach it. And why do we want something, those rules are in our zoning code, I believe. They're not just something that's on this piece of paper. But why are we ignoring all of those rules? When we ignore, we say everything that's in favor of it and ignore what's not in favor of it. And if there is a stoplight, who's going to put the stoplight in?
The stoplight is something that we will be looking into with the applicant and looking for funding partners for that. That would be put in as part of the development. We will be receiving a final traffic study if this gets approved, and we'll look at the full study and make sure that any of the improvements that are required to mitigate the development are included with the final plan. As far as the things that you mentioned for density, and I think it's probably in the Clayton Improvement District, again, the Planning and Zoning Code is a guide for us, but when you have a planned development district, what council approves ultimately, that becomes the zoning and development standards for that property. So you can't approve a plan that's different from what the code prescribes.
Why would we have a code?
You have a code for straight zoning districts. Your Clayton Improvement District code says that anything over 5 acres has to be rezoned to planned development district if it's to be developed. So, and within a planned development district, you are allowed to vary from the code standards.
I mean, this sounds very similar to the traffic study that was done when we had our meeting with Northmont High School, and the Board of Education, when they offered to help pay for if we got the money from the state to build a light, which we never got, but we were trying up till recently, I believe, and that's still a possibility?
To actually construct the light at the intersection, or?
Well, I remember the last time when they brought in the apartments, somebody said there was never a traffic study done, and I sat at that table with I think that Dave Rollins was still here at that time as a city manager and the school board, and we discussed it, and the school board definitely said there needed to be a light, and they were willing to cooperate with the city to cover the expenses that the state didn't cover.
I think that they would be somebody that we'll talk to as a city to discuss the necessity for it and their impact to traffic on National Road.
What about the drop lanes on Haber? Haber's not a very wide road. I know that both Plats down here had to put drop lanes in, and we haven't required a drop lane for a long time.
Yeah. Our city engineer has reviewed the draft study. They will review the final study and make sure, again, that any improvements that are required to mitigate the development will be included in the plan.
In the number of lots on a small area doesn't affect anything then, huh?
If you're thinking about the density, I mean, that's a density that you can approve through the plan development process.
Any other questions or comments for Seth on this? Okay, hearing none, I will, thank you, Seth. I will ask the applicant if they'd like to make a presentation. You'd state your name and who you're with, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of City Council. Lance Oaks, 8534 Yankee Street, Oaks Tree Development. I am the developer proposing this development, and just want to say thank you. It's nice to be back before you again. Thanks to Seth and the team, the staff at the city. They've been great to work with. Don't have a long presentation, as Seth did a pretty good job. Just wanted to add a couple things, and then Mr. Gorman asked some very good questions, and maybe just add a couple of things to those as well. The first thing would be, for this development, we would be looking to do it in 2 phases. So we'd build that southern half probably first with the detention basins. We'll put some nice water features and uplighting in there so that it really pops from National Road. The second thing would be, the one request I would ask is on the rear yard setback is just a variance in that 25 to 30 feet. It's currently 30 feet. The builders that I work with and the one I'm working with on this particular site, if people build their largest product and want to add in the patio option to the rear of it, which is very popular these days, it may encroach into that back 30 feet. And so instead of having to come back for a variance every time that occurs, just ask for some leeway for that rear setback to be in the 25 to 30 range. The other thing too, with regards to these houses, I know the residents like to know about it, I know the city likes to know about it. We would envision the price point for these homes today averaging somewhere in that $400,000 to $450,000 price range. And then the last thing that is regarding the traffic signal. Today, whether this development goes in or not, according to the traffic study, a signal is warranted at that intersection. And with this and talking with staff, what I'd be willing to do is pay my portion of my impact to that traffic study and compensate it that way. Unfortunately, if the whole traffic signal was put on me as the developer for this development, economically, that is probably going to be unfeasible, and I would have to punt on the housing market. And the turn lanes, we'll take a look at that traffic study as well. I was unaware that it called for turn lanes at those entrances, but we'll take a look at that as well and see what can be done to mitigate that, if that is indeed required. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, but very excited. And as for the density comes out to about 3.35 units to the acre. But we're also giving 20%, I think, open space to the development as well, too. So
But you don't measure up unless you take the right-of-way, too. At least
that is-
that's what this said.
that is correct.
And are these going to be cookie-cutter homes, or are they going to be spec homes?
No, these will be pre-sales, but we will adhere to the anti-monotony plan that's part of Plan Clayton and make sure that none of the houses to the sides or the front all have different elevations.
If your standard lot is 52 by 125, by the time you have the setback, that only leaves less than 3,000 feet to build a house on, and that includes a two-car garage, I assume.
If you're doing a ranch, then yes, but if you're building up, I think the average, the square footage for these homes in this community, and I apologize, the builder's not here this evening, but would probably be somewhere in that 1,600 to 2,200 on average, with some going larger to maybe 2,700 square feet.
And you say they're going to run between $400,000 and $500,000?
4 to 450. A good example of that, and I give is, a similar product is being built in Waterford Landings over in Fairborn these days. And if you pull the last 6 months of comps in there, those houses are all selling between 400 and 520. So that, I feel very, very comfortable today hitting that 4 to 450 price point, because that would be the same product that would most likely go in here.
Is the builder Ryan Holmes?
The builder I am working with, I don't have a contract with them, but yes, it is Ryan Holmes at this time.
It's a different type of quality of homes compared to off of 571. So there's different products and different price points. So what is the mode that you're looking at for
So-
the building?
I believe
Material.
571, and I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. I think that's their Simply Ryan, that's their starting home. That is not the product that will be built here. This will be their higher-end move-up product.
The
So,
light comparison, can you give us one?
like a Waterford Landing or a Winding Creek down in the Centerville, Springboro, Waynesville area, that would be the type of product that would go in here. And that's a function of two things. One, the lot price that I need to sell to them based on how much it's costing me these days to put these on. And two, a function of where the market's at. And, we love the location being right across from the high school. We think it'd be a good product that's not there for families today in the Clayton market. And that proximity to the high school makes it very attractive.
One thing I forgot to ask Seth is, how are we going to get these people from the walkway there across the street, Route 49? We had police directing the school bus traffic, and one of them got almost met the end, and he didn't, thank God for Jim. But how are you planning to get the people across the street?
That's a good question, Mr. Gorman. So with the traffic signal, we would have a crosswalk and a pedestrian signals that would be integrated with the traffic signal.
we've been working on that stoplight now for 5, 6 years that I can remember, or probably longer than that, because Rick was here. I think Dave Rollins was the one that started it, as I said before.
Yeah, we would love to get a signal there. I think it's definitely necessary.
We improved 49, one intersection, and we're doing another this year. That's wider. We improved 49, those two major intersections, and those are wider. And they're gonna have pedestrian, so no reason why
They
we're,
did the curbs on 40.
no, they completely redid 49 in Union, now we're doing 49 in Westbrook, and they're gonna have crosswalk as well, and those are wider.
We're gonna
So-
put another roundabout in?
How long you wanna be here? You wanna start that discussion?
Is there any other questions or comments from Mr. Oakes?
I just had one question. When we're talking about a streetlight, obviously, everybody seems to agree we need a streetlight there and have needed one for a while. From what I understand, your position to be that you're willing to pay your portion of that. Do you have a definition of what that would be?
So that's where we've got to work with staff and our traffic engineer to see what impact. To give you an idea, that traffic signal, if I had to guess today, is going to be anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million. And I don't know, Seth, yeah, but that's best guess. Yes.
Closer to 2 million.
Okay, that would be a problem. $2 million would be an extra $20,000 to every lot if I had to bear that entire expense. I hope it's not that much, but he probably has a better idea than I do. So to think that just 33 acres, which whether or not this gets developed today or not, that signal's still warranted. So I obviously am willing to pay something, but as the developer, I can't pick up that full portion of the signal and think I can be economically viable.
No, I understand that.
So it's just working with staff, working with the engineer to figure out what that proportion, what that percentage is, and come to that fair number for both parties.
And the only reason I'm asking that question is because it seems to me that we have to have that light, or else it just wouldn't be feasible to put more traffic in when we already need one. So we definitely need a light, and you're willing to help us get that, from what I understand.
Yes, I'm willing to pay a portion, but I can't bear the whole expense.
In your final plan, would there be, and Seth, maybe this is a better question for you, would there be a condition in that final plan as far as the stoplight is concerned, or plans for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the final development plan could certainly show a signal on the site plan. And then as far as design and construction plans, those would be done at a later time. One of the major warrants for a traffic signal is trip generation, so maybe that factors into, to answer your earlier question, factors into the formula in terms of share and what's fair to pay.
Have we talked to Northmont City Schools at all? Has anyone reached out to them with the proposed plan of what's going to happen? And are they willing to help, or?
Are you talking about the development or the traffic signal? Oh, then
The traffic.
gotcha,
signal.
sorry.
So we've had numerous conversations with Northmont City Schools about potential development in the city of Clayton, which they've been very receptive to. Our plan is to talk to them about their potential portion of the traffic signal based on the trips generated by the high school and the middle school.
Before, when we submitted it to the state, they agreed to pay $50,000, Amanda.
Okay.
That was the amount that they would go. And the state has turned it down. I don't know if we're going back to the state, Seth, or not. I don't know if you write those kind of proposals, or Randy does, or Barbara does, or who does. But
So I think for the state grant, I think it was a safety grant. And I think the issue there was that there weren't enough accidents or animal strikes, because we were including animal strikes at that intersection for them to give us the grant. That doesn't mean that the traffic signal, we can't put it there. It's just that the safety grant that we were going for, there weren't enough accidents at that site.
one of the things too, and Seth, maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, when I read that traffic report, what really necessitates and facilitates the need for that traffic signal at that location is the school, when the school hours start and when kids are leaving. So the start of the day and the end of the day is really where a big portion of that traffic is coming from.
Yeah, I think that's true when you look at the peak hours, but again, that's when school's, going into session and out of session.
But there were some people that also wanted one at Diamond Mill Road also, that the state said that there was enough accidents there to do it, but, and that's beyond the school, so.
Any other questions or comments for either of these gentlemen? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And is there a motion to open the floor to public comment?
I'll move to open for public comment.
Motion by Mr. Bachman, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, is there anyone, we'll start with proponents. Is there anyone here that wants to speak as a proponent or for the plan as proposed? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone that wants to speak as an opponent or someone who would be against the plan?
What if you're kind of 50-50, Mike?
Then you can just come on up.
Kind of hard to classify. It's four, but there are some questions I have.
Well, that's all right.
Good evening, everybody. Jeremy Blanford, 10801 Haber. First, let me say that this, dealing with Lance has been great compared to the other guy. We'll just leave him at that. He's been very upfront with all of us in the area. We've had a number of meetings. It's been well receptive. One question that is concerning a lot of us, and we're for this. Correct me if I'm wrong, the city's setback requirement is 10 feet. They're asking for 5 feet. So that's putting the edge of a house here and the edge of a house, basically Brendan to Greg. So that shoehorns. Now, ask anybody out there, you put a property on the market on Monday, on Tuesday morning it's sold already. That quick. I have yet to see a property that's stagnated more than a day or two. The other question that I would have is with the traffic light, final proposal, everything, I get that. But if we say, let's go ahead and, let's move forward and give it the ooh yay, without a figure of how much that light's gonna cost, who's paying what, how does that come out after we've given the final approval? Because now we just dumped a load on him that he maybe wasn't expecting. So those are the biggest questions that I've got. And I know this is still early on, but I wanted to make sure that, they were brought forth. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. So I'd like a motion to close the public comment.
Move to
Section.
close the public comment of the
Second.
session.
Motion by Mr. Bachman, second by Mr. Gorman to close the public. Mr. Oakes or Mr. Dorman, would you like to respond, to that? Mr. Blanford's comments or questions?
I'll start.
I think they're both valid questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jeremy, for your comments, and I'll start and let Lance follow up. I believe Jeremy was referring to the 10-foot setback required today in the RSD, the Residential Single Unit District. Again, the 5-foot setback is proposed. Between two lots, you would have a total of 10 feet. If that's something that the council is supportive of, that can be approved as part of this planned development process. So that lower or lesser setback can be approved.
That also allows them to put more houses in than the zoning code allows too, because they're putting them so close together, Seth.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of places in Clayton.
I think we've approved a couple with 5-foot setbacks recently. As far as the traffic light, we received a draft traffic study. Traffic study is not required for a rezoning and a preliminary development plan, so we got a little early look at the traffic study. There will be a final one submitted with a final development plan. So I don't think it's I don't think it's unusual to approve a rezoning and a preliminary plan without final details on a traffic study. So, for what that's worth.
Yeah, no, those were good comments, and thank you very much, Jeremy. I appreciate you saying that. It is important to me to be a good neighbor as a developer, to work with the residents. It's much easier to work with them than against them. So I appreciate that. As it relates to the side yard setback, that is pretty common these days and what's getting approved in most communities all over the surrounding Dayton area. It is similar to what just recently got approved in another community in Clayton. So if it's a huge issue, I'm willing to talk to you guys about it, but that is typical of what's gotten approved in many other communities lately. So. And then the traffic signal, like Seth said, I'm happy to work through that with staff as we get further down the road and work with you guys at the city as well. So it's got to be a partnership because this is a long-term project and there's a lot of moving parts and, everybody's got to be on board for the ride. So that's.
Are the
thank
ponds
you.
detention or retention?
Detention, so there'll be water features with a fountain and uplighting for for both of them.
Right across from the high school and a junior high school.
Yes.
I have a question, kind of going back to what Jeremy said. So on the traffic light, maybe you answered this, but I just didn't get it. So will the funding be will we know where the funding comes from by the final plan? Or are we going to try to be scrambling, trying to fund it afterwards?
So that's a good question. I'd probably leave that one for Seth. What I would like to do as the developer, since I'm hopefully a smaller portion of the overall project, is have an agreement with city and city staff that once they get that final bid out number, that I'm required to pay my portion to the city, wherever it goes. And it'll be a city project at that point. But there's a million ways to skin the cat, and like I said, I'm willing to work with the city however need be, but that would be the preferred method for me.
And I guess along those lines, if I could follow up on it, I think our only concern is that we have a plan and how it's going to be paid for that street light, and that all of a sudden we don't have another development with more people at that intersection, increasing a problem we already have. And so we just wanted to make sure that was done at some point before the final.
No, and
the
Jim,
final
you bring
plan.
up a very good point. I'm looking for the right words to say this, and it's not, I know it seems like a lot of homes on that site and a lot of cars coming out onto National, but in the grand scheme of things, of the cars that are traveling down National today and the trip generations, this is a proverbial drop in the ocean. It's not that this is not going to add or move the needle that much compared to what's going on National today. And I hate to say that because it sounds callous and it's not, but that's what the numbers say.
No,
I
and
think you could go all the way back on Haber to the city line and not find 132 homes. It's a pretty rural area, and I drove it just last week, and
Well, just to the north of there, there is the conservatorship ground, meaning that it's not going to be developed north of there for most portion. The other stuff just to the north of that you run into issues with rock. And so it's going to be very difficult to develop that portion in today's economics. You do go a little further north up to Phillipsburg Union, and you do have higher density or similar density on Iron Gate and some of those other subdivisions. So it's not that it's not there for a reason.
unless I read something wrong, you're already planning on another plat at Haber and Phillipsburg Union. Is that not right, Amanda?
I think there's another builder up there who owns some ground just to the west of Stone Gate or Iron Gate, that they're looking at that, correct, yes. But it's not me.
If I could go back to my question, I think you misunderstood where I was coming from.
Sorry.
And it's not really for you, more so for Seth. Back to your analogy, it might be a drop in the bucket, but if the bucket's already full, that's a problem. And the bucket is already full. We need a stoplight there. So Seth, the question I have is simply, will we be able, before this begins, not today, obviously. Today's just the first step. But would we be able, by the end of that, to know where the funding's coming from and to have that put together so that we were assured there's going to be a stoplight there?
I think that we need to be a lot closer to where we are today before that final development plan comes to council. I agree with you completely. The way to look at tonight is it's a rezoning request and a conceptual plan. Does council like what they see enough to support moving forward to the next step? And the next step's going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of study.
One thing that may give a little comfort to that as well, from a timing standpoint, and talking with a pipe supplier today, one of my pipe suppliers, it kind of scared me a little bit, but from a supply chain issue, they told me if I was to order water line pipe today, I may get it around 2024 at this point. That's rough to hear as a developer. Now, one of the reasons for that, and I'm hoping that I can overcome that, is excavators are probably stockpiling it in their yards, so they're overbuying, knowing that there's going to be those challenges and try to give them a competitive edge. So I'm hoping when I go out to bid that they're going to have that material available. But the earliest I would be ready, in reality, to go out to bid on a project like this and start construction, even in an ideal scenario, would be around that first quarter, February, March timeframe of next year. So I think there is some time on that traffic signal between, and then on top of that, once I get it built, it's going to take me every bit of 6 to 7 months anymore. And then I've got the pleasure of the utility companies on when they're going to be able to energize it. Though they keep getting pushed out and delays. And so I think realistically, in an ideal world, by the end of next year, fourth quarter is when you might see sales starting to occur in here if everything went well today, so.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman to close the public hearing, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. I'd like to thank everyone who participated and presented tonight. It's very interesting and exciting stuff, so thank you. Okay, so we're ready for our regular agenda. Clerk's report, please.
Okay, you have before you the council meeting minutes of May 19th, 2022.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve as written by Ms. Kelly, second by Mr. Gorman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, let the record show that was unanimous.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. What I'd like to do is request a resolution to be added to the agenda for this evening, which is Resolution 06-2247, authorizing a lease purchase agreement for 3 dump trucks, and then we would just need a motion and second and vote to add that to the agenda.
Is there a motion for the resolution that Martina just,
I'll move to add that resolution to the agenda.
Second.
motion by Mr. Bachman, second by Mr. Merkel? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, and let the record show that's unanimous that that be added. Okay, we're going to move on to old business. This will be the second of 2 readings. Will you read the first ordinance, please?
Ordinance O05-2211, an ordinance to approve curtain replacement pages to the Clayton Codified Ordinances.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman to approve as written, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show that's unanimous. Will you read the second ordinance, please?
Ordinance O05-2213, an ordinance authorizing the creation of the Wenger Village Incentive District within the city of Clayton, Ohio, declaring improvements to certain real property within such incentive district to be public purpose, describing the public infrastructure improvements to be made to benefit or serve the real property within such incentive district, declaring such property to be exempt from real property taxation, requiring annual service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund, and providing related authorizations pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.40C, 5709.42, 5709.43, 5709.832, and 5709.85.
Okay, and this will establish the TIF agreement up there at Winger Village. We discussed this last meeting. Is there any questions or comments for anyone on this?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman, second by Mr. Bachman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show that's unanimous also. And on new business, so we're going to have, looks like two ordinances. 3 ordinances tonight, yes. Will you read the first, please?
Ordinance O06-2216, an ordinance to either adopt, reject, or adopt and modify the Planning Commission's recommendation with condition to approve the application of the Kleinger Group for right-of-way and easement plat approval for the Grand Villas of Clayton with respect to 15.144 acres and bearing parcel ID number M60-03102-0032 within the city of Clayton, Ohio.
Is there any questions or comments on this? Any discussion? And this was the presentation that we'd had tonight. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second?
Motion to approve as written by Mr. Gorman, second by Mr. Lieberman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show that passed unanimously. We read the second ordinance, please.
Ordinance O06-2217, an ordinance adopting, rejecting, or adopting and modifying the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve with condition the application of Oak Street Development for a change in zoning from Residential Single Unit District, RSD, formerly R1 Open Space Residential, to Planned Development District, PDD, formerly PD3 Planned Development Business, and to further approve the preliminary development plan for property located at the northwest corner of National Road and Haber Road, to be called Northwood Estates, consisting of parcel ID number M60-03012-0022 and parcel ID number M60-03102-0105, and containing 33.69 acres within the city of Clayton, Ohio.
Mayor, sorry to interrupt, just a
Yes.
reminder on this, since it's rezoning according to the codified ordinances, if the motion is to reject or modify the Planning Commission recommendation, that takes 5 votes. If the motion is to approve the Planning Commission recommendation, that takes 4 votes.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on this? This was our second presentation tonight. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lieberman to approve as written, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, let the record show that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. And will you read the third ordinance, which is going to be read as an emergency?
Ordinance O06-2218, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute legal documentation necessary to purchase real property located at 8027 North Main Street, Clayton, Ohio, and bearing parcel ID numbers M60 16312 0003 0004 and 0005 for the purchase amount of $99,000 plus closing cost and declaring an emergency.
You want to talk about this for a minute, or?
Sure. If the, this is the property that is directly south of the property that the city of Clayton just purchased, the Laura's Loft property and the property next door. By acquiring this property, it'll give us a little over, I think, 2 acres at the site. So we do have funds budgeted from the CIP for land acquisition along North Main Street, and the city has been in contact with the Economic Development Department at Montgomery County to reallocate leftover CDBG funds to tear the house down.
So that would give us actually 3 parcels.
Yes, we would have the corner of Hacker all the way to this property.
I'll move for approval.
For
I'll move for an emergency.
Second.
a motion to approve as an emergency by Mr. Gorman, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Is there a motion for the ordinance?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Merkel to approve as written, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Okay, and we have 5 resolutions tonight. Will you read the first resolution, please?
Resolution R 06-2243, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Montgomery County Soil and Water Conservation District to commence April 1st, 2022, and terminate March 31st, 2025, and at an annual cost not to exceed $9,500.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve as written by Mr. Gorman, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it passed unanimously. Will you read the second resolution, please?
Resolution R 06-2244, a resolution authorizing the city manager to provide written notice of withdrawal of the City of Clayton, Ohio, from the Central Collection Agency to the City of Cleveland, Ohio, and to the Central Collection Agency, CCA, in order to terminate the City of Cleveland, Ohio's and the CCA's authority to administer and enforce Clayton's income tax ordinance.
So I think we probably need to have some discussion on this. We've discussed this already. And I myself never really got the feeling that we were in agreement to withdraw. Does anyone feel different about that?
I don't know that we have any place to go, do we? I mean, I know that Huber Heights has come and spoke to us, but nobody has decided to go there either.
I do want to say one thing. We have a young lady here from CCA tonight. So I guess, you know, if we could rely on her for, if we had any specific questions, but I mean, I got the feeling that it was in limbo at best.
CCA reached out to each individual and answered some questions, and I felt confident that they were addressing the issues at hand and they were going to improve on it with the communication skills. Also, beforehand, we really didn't hear a recommendation from Kevin, and that's huge for me, myself, because, you know, he deals with this all. So I was waiting for his recommendation, and whatever he decided, then I was going to agree with. So.
In the packet this evening, there's a discussion or the presentation of the agreement between CCA and the city. And Kevin would be the best one to answer the question that I have regarding, has the agreement between the city and CCA been to your satisfaction, upheld?
Yes. Like I said, since I've been here, I've dealt with Rita, City of Vandalia, CCA, so, whatever we go with, I deal with. But like I said, the nature of the beast is income taxes. We have issues. Yeah. And I think we're still going to have issues. Huber Heights offered, online, which was a big thing for some people. In today's time, is what everyone's looking for. I think, when I'm getting contacts now from people, I'm sending them directly to Michelle Jordan, which is here tonight, and Eric Hine, who are our representatives, and having them deal with them instead of calling the 800 number in Cleveland. And I think a lot of people are liking that option. But this was something council brought up, had complaints that they were hearing, which I hear more than they do, but that's why I was kind of letting you guys decide. You're the ones that brought it up, so I was letting you find out among yourselves.
Isn't time against us, Kevin?
According to the agreement, yeah, we have to let CCA know if we're leaving within 6 months, so that would be the end of June.
I just don't think we have any place to go, so I hate to close the door when no place to go. I'll move for table the motion.
Well, I'm not really, I'm sorry, just interject. I don't know that we need to table anything from the standpoint, with my conversation with the persons from CCA over the telephone, addressing some of the concerns or issues that seem to be coming as a direction from the persons completing their taxes, not doing certain things.
Yeah.
And this would be something that you can answer better than probably anybody else in terms of the information that is provided to persons preparing their documentation for doing their taxes for this year. What do you need to have when doing your taxes, and what do you need to file with those taxes when it's being done?
And like, I had a phone call today. I talked with, I think, gentleman that Mr. Gorman sent my way, and he said, I paid it all, and I got a bill. I said, well, probably what happened was he had a accounting firm or tax preparer prepare his taxes. Said, we need to make sure that your W-2 is attached. A lot of times, they give you the form and everything, but they don't give you the W-2. You send them with the check. We need to make sure that you did pay another city income taxes to make sure you get credit for that. So if you don't have that documentation, so that, that's what I guess we can, put that out in newsletters and educate people saying, it's tax time, make sure you complete the form, W-2s, schedules if you have rental income or your own business, items like that.
Well, I had the pleasure now of retiring from Wright State, and I know that as of this year, that Wright State's not taking taxes off for Clayton. They're only taking out for Fairborn. So anybody now living in Clayton, they're going to have to now worry about whether or not, how they can get their taxes taken out during the course of the year and not get stuck with having to pay a quarterly fee or not know that something's not being done until January.
Right, and that's the big thing of people be cognizant of what's required of them with our 50% credit. Luckily for you, being retired, we don't tax you this year, and we withhold it for your pay here. So,
I'm just saying these are
yeah,
example of things that no matter who you go to, it's still going to be that same problem.
Yeah,
And going to another entity isn't going to solve it, and jumping to, okay, you were offered to do it, but I don't know that they would be actually in the position of actually taking it on with, not saying incompetency, but fair willingness to do it, especially not doing it for anybody else. And I seriously at this point not looking at changing and making the situation potentially worse.
right. In the perfect world, if we had the space and money and staff to do this, it would be great to start after I leave. But but we would be able to take care of it
Or use a
ourselves. But-
contractor.
Perfect world, we wouldn't have to be here.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, I got a phone call, but it was more than 24 hours ago, so my memory may not be really good. But I thought we talked about online and about how that might be something that they're going to do in the future.
Yeah, they're looking at it. It's not
Am
gonna
I
be
right
addressed.
on that?
It's not gonna be addressed for filing 2022 taxes. But
Right.
they are working on the online. They're also working on updating their kind of archaic website they have now. So they are working on both those issues, but the online filing will not happen for this year's taxes.
And remind me again, how much we would have to pay Huber just to go there?
To convert our information for their software company was $20,000.
Okay. 30?
Was it 30 or 25?
I thought it was 20.
Well, Tim, you're older than me, so your memory
Hold on
can't
one
be any
second.
better.
They would $7,500 for supplies and equipment, and then another $12,700. $12,700 for CMI data conversion. So you're looking at combined, it's $20,000.
A few things here. Well, first off, talking about a perfect world, we wouldn't have to pay taxes. So that's not going to happen. What is the length, how much longer do we have on our current contract with CCA?
Right now, I believe it's just year to year.
Okay. And I'll admit, a lot of you heard the similar, complaints that I had. And Michelle and Eric, I spoke to last week, and they actually initially called me when I was working. So I set an appointment a few days later in the evening time to speak to them, which also gave me time to kind of prep mentally what I could really gripe at them about. We spoke for about an hour. It was a very good conversation. Everything the issues that I brought up about my personal experience, obviously my family's personal experience, and then what we had heard from many residents about this were addressed. And I confidently feel that they were sincere in their answers, and whether it was an answer of why that was an issue or how they're looking to improve on that. One thing I did mention was, there's always going to be, issues and people having problems. If we do a little bit more of maybe a combined marketing effort. I mean, I didn't even truly know it was kind of as simple for some aspects of just putting your W-2. I always do, just because, especially the last couple of years, I just kind of do that. Like, well, I think I filled this out right since I couldn't do it electronically. So I'm going to highlight what I paid in Clayton taxes and never had any issues. So it's kind of one of those, I'm standing here a little bit egg in my face, because last couple of meetings, you probably was one like, well, we know how Brendan's going to vote. Especially since it's, a year to year. I wasn't sure if it was, if we had any long-term agreement here or anything. Kind of with it being a year-to-year thing, it's like, well, I think we kind of give them another chance. And like I said, I do believe they're sincere in wanting to improve and help out the city of Clayton.
So,
Yeah.
Tim, given be a consensus of where we are on this issue, instead of tabling it, why don't we just vote the resolution down or up?
I think we need.
We need to do something, yeah.
We need to come up with a replacement, if nothing else, and wasn't
Right.
full agreement on Huber Heights, I don't believe.
No, I agree with you. So probably what we're doing tonight is voting against that resolution.
I'll vote, I'll make a resolution that we, oops,
First, you would need to withdraw your motion to table.
Right. Which was why
and
I
I
was
withdraw
saying
the
that.
motion. I'll withdraw the motion to table the resolution.
Yeah, and then so you just need to vote on the resolution, like Dennis said. If you want to stick with CCA, then you vote no on the resolution.
Okay, is there a motion on the second second resolution here?
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion by,
For or against it?
as written.
Did you make a resolution, Dennis? I don't know where.
No, the resolution's already there.
Resolution's right
We just have to vote on it.
We're all in agreement.
Yeah, all you have to do is vote.
Motion by Mr. Merkel, second by Mr. Bachman. So all in favor of the resolution, vote.
If you want to stay with CCA, you vote no. So I would suggest you call for a roll call so we can record it that way.
Okay, let's call for a roll call, whether or not we want to stay with CCA as our tax collection agency.
Wait, hold on.
No, no.
It's voting, okay, we're voting on the resolution that says we're terminating the contract with CCA.
So you're gonna
if
vote
you-
no.
So if you want to stay with CCA, you're actually voting no, because this is a vote to terminate. I don't need a law degree to do
So can we have a roll call, please?
Bachman,
No.
Gorman. No. Merkel,
No.
Kelly,
No.
Lieberman,
No.
and Stevens.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martina, for that. Will you read the third resolution, please?
Resolution R 06-2245, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Asphalt Seal Coaters, Seal Coaters of Dayton for the installation of 4 pickleball courts at Meadowbrook at Clayton at a total cost not to exceed $56,850.
Anyone want to speak to this, or we've already?
I just have one question, Amanda. And it says fence and everything included in this, but are we going to fence it in such that it cannot be parked on? We've used that ground for parking normally on Labor Day, but on other times too, I believe, and I think that's important that we don't want them parking on the greens on the golf course. I just wonder if there's going to be a gate that we can get cars in and out of or not.
So when we pave this for the pickleball courts, there will be no parking there. The area that we're going to do it is already walled off, so people won't be able to park there. I actually had a conversation with both the police and fire chief today about this exact issue, whether or not it was going to interfere with parking or inhibit us from having enough parking spaces during the Labor Day fireworks, and they both believe that we'll be fine.
I'll move for approval. Pickleball is taking over the world.
Second.
Pickleball and dodgeball. Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Gorman, second by Ms. Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. That passed unanimously. And will you read the fourth resolution, please?
Resolution R 06-2246, a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept proposal of and enter into an agreement with Superior Dental Care for the provision of group dental insurance benefits for the period September 1st, 2022 to August 31st, 2023.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've worked with our insurance broker, McGowan and Braybender, to negotiate a 1.5% increase for our dental insurance beginning September 1st of this year. Superior Dental has proven to provide an excellent level of coverage and network for us, so we think this is a good move to stick with Superior with a 1.5% increase.
The employees have agreed to Superior Dental?
So they had. Typically, I'll ask during every time that we do our, it's not open enrollment, but when we get, put these rates in front of us, if anybody has any issues with our current carriers, and I have not heard any issues.
I'll move for approval.
Second?
Motion to approve as written by Mr. Gorman, second by Mr. Lieberman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And will you read thanks, Elaine. And will you read the fifth and final resolution?
Resolution R 06-2247, a resolution approving a 5-year lease purchase agreement with Public Sector Capital for the lease and purchase of 3 dump trucks via state bid at a purchase lease price of $787,497.
Evening. I'm up here doing Randy's job while he's up on Lake Erie fishing, so. Originally, we probably wouldn't come forward until next year to purchase these dump trucks. We have our last payment on the current dump truck's lease this year. It runs about $142,000 a year. What we're proposing is $172,888 a year. So he's going to try to offset it with some of the construction monies that we have that he gets budgeted with. But what we're running into is the new dump truck prices are significantly higher than what we purchased them last time. And if we do not place orders now, we will not, if we do it now, we will get them the end of 2023 or the beginning of 2024. So we're seeing the supply chain issue, and so that's kind of why we're pressing forward earlier with this request. I did get it. We did have a quote from the dealer where they're going to purchase the dump trucks from, and I reached out to 2 other financing sources and got a better rate. So that's public sector capital. That's what we're recommending to go with. So that's why we're kind of coming earlier than we planned.
Any questions for Kevin on this? Again, I think this is stuff we've.
Yeah, well, I know one dump truck we're replacing is a 96 dump truck we still have in service. So we'll be, these will also be the same, what we did last time, so we're going to have the same parts, will be interchangeable, we can keep everything on hand and repair easier without having to have multiple parts.
And what do we do with the old ones? Sell them or
Gonna
auction
sell
them?
them.
Sell them. Okay, is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bachman, second by Mr. Merkel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously. All right. Well, that was a long agenda so far. We'll move to the city manager's report.
Well, first I want to apologize because there are some items on here that you're probably going to want to discuss. So, first, a few weeks ago, I sent an email to council in one of my weekly updates talking about, very high level, reducing speed limits on certain roads in the city, given the new development. So tonight's two presentations kind of dovetail into that nicely. Staff was looking at Westbrook, Haber, Main Street, Sweet Potato, reducing the speeds to 35 miles an hour from the speeds that they are now. That would definitely be something that we would need to do a speed study for. They would have to be warranted to have the speed dropped. But that is something that staff would be recommending that we do. And we can, at a future date, schedule a work session so we can have an in-depth conversation, so I can have the police chief here, we can have our city engineer here, and we can also have Randy here. But I wanted to prime council that this is something that staff is looking at. And along with that, I actually had a phone call from a resident who was looking to reduce the speed on Old Mill to 25 miles an hour. So we could also talk about that at a future date. Are there any questions on that, or?
You driven much lately, Amanda? Since the pandemic, everybody's driving 30 miles an hour faster than they used to.
Well, I'll make my comment on this. I get it. I'm getting older and everything, but I'm telling you, I think every agency would say slower is better. It's less accidents, less, it's just better for the communities. And, I get it. Some people want to, speed to work and speed everywhere they go, but it's.
We go
Needs to
to
be
a
slower.
city out on Long Island where Barbara's mother lives, and the whole city is 15 miles an hour. No, that's not okay, Amanda.
No, it's not. I was going to say
no,
that. I would
that's
not
crazy is
recommend
what
that.
it
I
is.
would not.
You ever try and drive 15 miles an hour?
No.
Okay.
So,
So we'll break protocol. One quick comment.
To try to mitigate. Now, I'm not talking now,
Mhm.
but it's an idea, because the speeds are 90, 100 plus. All throughout the day, different times, I've talked to Chief Hamlin already this year about it, so, yeah,
Well, we have speed issues everywhere, yeah, yeah. And it's not just our city, it's everywhere, yeah.
So
Thank
what I'll
you.
do is look at dates for a work session, and I'll get those out to council, and we can do that. The next item, so tonight we had a presentation from Energy Alliances for Electrical Aggregation. In talking with Law Director Dillon, I think that between the two of us, and definitely Martina, we would be able to figure out legislation to bring before council to get this item on the ballot prior to us selecting a consultant to work with, so we could determine whether or not even the residents want to do an aggregation program. That way, we're not behind the eight ball trying to select someone to provide us with the consulting services, and then still trying to get it onto the ballot get it to the Board of Elections, by August 10th, to get on the November ballot. So if council is fine with that, I think by the next meeting in July, we can bring an ordinance to council to place it on the ballot, and then we'll go from there.
Does it approve if it's majority plus one? Or
Yes,
what?
yeah, it would have to be approved by the residents, yes.
Any issues with drafting that? Okay.
Yes. One of the other items that I sent to council in an email last week was the issue of whether or not the city wants to recognize Juneteenth as a observed holiday for the city. Now, there are other cities in the area who are doing that, where it becomes a paid holiday. The city, we talked about this briefly last year. There's no obligation that the city do that. There are other federal holidays that the city doesn't formally recognize by closing its offices, but we still post items about it, like Flag Day, and not that Flag Day and Juneteenth are the same thing, but items like that we do that. So if council were to want to observe Juneteenth as a holiday at the city where we close the building, we would need to amend our personnel manual, because those items, those dates that we are closed are listed in there. So if that is something council wants to do for next year, we can bring that item to council as legislation amending, I think it's Article 6 in the employee handbook, designating that as an observed holiday.
My opinion is, I think we should.
Any other comments? I think we should also.
Okay, so we'll have legislation prepared for the next meeting. So good news. So the USDA tornado cleanup, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think that we have, in talking with Mr. Vu, they are going to be awarding, it's not public yet, but they're going to be awarding the contract, he drew a blank, the contract this week. I think Friday, it's either Friday or Monday. It is tomorrow, they're doing it tomorrow? It's either Friday or Monday. They're going to be having a meeting with a contractor. Elaine is going to be a representative at the meeting. After they have that meeting, they can award the contract, and we can get the cleanup actually completed. So hopefully that will help people upstream, so the people on Levon Court who are having issues with the drainage pipe in their back because the water is backing up, the farmer over on Westbrook who is also having issues because the fields are getting flooded because of the tornado debris from 3 years ago, we will have that resolved.
I heard they let the contract once, but to a company in Texas.
Yes, that is the case. They were going to let the contract once to a company in Texas, and that company wasn't able to secure financing to actually do the work. The company that
Is it a local company now?
this one, yes, and they were actually at the meeting and went to the site, so they know what they're getting into. Unless there are any questions on that. The last item I have for council tonight, the state through House Bill 3077 is distributing the second tranche of American Rescue Plan money. Just like the last time, I asked staff to look at items that were needed and to prepare that, and so I could submit it to council so you could take a look. If you'll look at the attached spreadsheet in your packet, There are several items. So the city will again receive $692,509.26. We are looking at gas tax replacement. That will go towards the Hoke Road widening, that project. Life Pack heart monitors for the fire department. The service department needs a new salt bin to keep us from getting EPA violations. So we need something, we need to be able to put the salt in, or a new building to house the salt. We are looking at park path resurfacing for $100,000. LED lighting for all of the city buildings. That will, I think, within 5 years, is that what it is? Only? Oh, 1 year, well, fantastic, 1 year pay for itself. And then we will see those savings every year after that. The Meadowbrook skylight and roof, that is a large project for the city. That's $116,675. So the other item on here is paving makeup at $126,000 with the cost of asphalt. I joke with Randy that his budget is budget-ish. Like, he comes to me with a number, and it's an ish, because we never know what the asphalt's actually going to come in at. And there were also a couple extra roads that he liked to tack on to the paving projects to get a few more. So that came in at a cost of $126,000. The city also, or staff, also has been talking about cameraing intersections. If you'll recall, in the 2022 budget, we did budget $20,000 to install cameras at Union and 49 for that project. And with that $20,000, it gets us the camera there, and then also the server here at the city building. We have been talking with the city of Inglewood and the city of Union, and we are looking at all using the same server, so we would have access to all of the cameras along, or in the Northmont area. So each municipality would be able to see the other municipalities' cameras.
Is that police collaboration?
It is kind of police collaboration. Look at that. Yeah.
We're getting there.
We are getting there. So, one of the benefits with that is Inglewood has said that we could use their fiber as well, so that reduces the cost overall. That is another item that at a future date would like to do a work session on, so we can talk about all of the intersections that we would like to have cameraed and what the benefits are. But to start, I need to make sure that council's okay with allocating money. So we were looking at $70,000 for that. Chief Garver brought forward warning sirens that we are actually looking at working with Harrison Township. One of our plats, this for $37,000, we were looking at putting in a warning siren near Westbrook Park to cover that area, and then working with Harrison Township to put one in near the Plat over by the river. So they also have warning sirens there. We have $3,000 for a single audit, because all of the projects we're going to spend over the amount of federal money that's going to require a single audit. And then we put in the tornado cleanup, our portion of the tornado cleanup, which will be less than $48,000 to allocate that from this money. And then we were also looking at about $70,000 for a new audiovisual system for Meadowbrook.
Any questions or comments on all that? So if I'm looking at this correctly, so we're actually short 84,000 from what we want versus the money we're.
No. That's unexpended funds. Those are the funds, that we still have. So the total So no, there is ample money there to complete those projects as well as the projects that council approved previously from the first tranche.
So, just so if we have that left, can we talk about like all that pump stuff over there at Meadowbrook? I know it's on your list, but.
Yes, there are other items. I would like to, given the atmosphere and how things are coming in and bid pricing, I would rather wait. We don't have to have this money encumbered until 2024, so hopefully we'll be able to get these items out to bid. We'll know how much money is actually needed for all of these projects, and then whatever's left we can bring back to council.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
On the cameras, we're going to have a workshop on that. I mean,
Yes.
these aren't meant to ticket people.
Oh, no.
These
No.
aren't enforcement
These are not
cameras.
enforcement cameras, no.
Okay.
But yes, I will look at dates for that one as well.
Anything else, Amanda?
That's all I have for you this evening.
Questions or comments? Okay, thank you. We're to the visitors' comments. We have several visitors here. Does anyone want to make any comments? Hearing no one and seeing no one jumping up and down, I'm going to say no. Okay, well, we still appreciate all of you coming. Council comments, we'll start with Mr. Bachman.
Evening, everyone. Wanted to first kind of start off here, and it's been a month since we've met, so obviously a lot's gone on. First, want to mention Scott Newberg. He was a longtime Northmont wrestling coach. I also had the pleasure of having him as my middle school football coach, and what I told his family members at his viewing was, I played football for 7 years for Northmont. It was the 2 most fun years that I had. I could really go on for very long about him, but absolutely wonderful man, wonderful family, and I think I posted on social media, and even a diehard Buckeye fan like me, I actually posted a quote from Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh, who coaches his youngest son, but a nice quote about him, and I said there's a reason why they had to have out the high school gym just for his for his viewing. So obviously the community, very much loved him, and they'll be missed. We had Memorial Day and the activities around since then. At the high school that Saturday of that weekend, there was a nice service as always. Mayor Stevens had a wonderful speech. It was a good speech, but then he threw in a Reagan quote, so it made it wonderful. I did that for you. Thank you. And so obviously that weekend you remember the veterans who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Want to thank again, the city and the chamber for the collaboration they had for the veterans banners. A couple, when driving along that were notable. I saw some people, Mike Blackwell, the union city safety director, our own police chief Hamlin, not only him, his children are serving. Actually, I saw one of his sons just came back from deployment. And my dad. That was very nice. What else? Got a lot of development going on. It was, kind of ironic. I remember seeing, just driving around like, wow, we have 3 developments that have broken ground. And then, that was emailed out to us and posted on social media. And more is coming. It's a good thing. We're, obviously we're not a rubber stamp on things, but this community is growing. I think it's growing in a good and smart way. It's what's been planned for a while. It's been planned even before I was up here. And let's keep it going in a good and smart way. I mean, just what we have approved now is probably about 500 new residential units in a variety of them. Probably going to be completed over the next 4 to 5 years. That's wonderful. And that's, we're a growing community. The schools can handle it. Our infrastructure can handle it. So, let's keep it going. And I think all we can do is maybe screw it up if we get too much and, do the wrong things. Lastly, the discussion about Haber and National and that intersection, I think this is going to go well with Oates. And this is going to go through. Regardless, we need to figure out something if something goes off track for this development. We need to figure out how to get a light there. Sometime, I'm not going to say, in the next 2 or 5 years here, but that is a necessity. And I know effort's been done in the past, and that's been discussed at prior attempts at some development at that intersection, but we need to make this happen. Because, yes, we've seen the numbers, but, as some residents have said, and anyone who drives around there, at times there's a lot of traffic, and it needs to be managed better with those options. So, obviously we're waiting to see how all of this goes, and thank the Oates for saying that they would contribute a portion of it, but if that doesn't happen, somehow, we need to figure out to get that going. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gorman?
Yes, I'd just like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. It's a little bit early, but we don't have a meeting until later in July, and hope you all have a good holiday. And it falls on a Monday, so we all get another 3-day weekend.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Merkel?
I also was going to say, 4th of July is coming up. Have a safe holiday. This coming Sunday is Father's Day. Yeah, we'll say give thanks to your father, your dad, for the things that he has done, hopefully to help make you what you are today. I do thank my dad every day for still being here and letting him know that I'm here to take care of him, because I am. But since we won't be back until towards the end of July, we'll say everybody have a safe and happy 4th of July.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kelly?
I'd like to congratulate Dylan Greer, watching him grow up and his accomplishments. I knew from a young child that he was brilliant, and he is a great citizen to the city of Clayton. Brendan, you said it well with the traffic light and the development. I totally agree with you to keep it moving. And happy 4th to everyone.
Thank you. Mr. Lieberman?
Well, I'm just going to say happy birthday, Kevin. I'm glad to see that you could finally make your 60th birthday. And no, happy birthday. We're glad to have you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to just echo everything everyone said. I think we have a lot of good stuff going on. One thing that Amanda and I were talking this week, and she said something that really hit home with me. So we have this development going on, and as people know, we have this document, Plan Clayton. Well, I think sometimes people get tired of me and others referring back to this document, Plan Clayton, Plan Clayton. Someone told us at one of the meetings, it's not the Bible, and, we get that. It's not the Bible, but it is a document that we live by. And I think that if you look at the things that are going on in our city, our agenda tonight was pretty full. That's a lot of stuff going on, and that's not even all of it. There's just a ton of other stuff. It's like the tip of the iceberg here. But I think what Amanda said was, she said, we're working the plan. And I think that is the key. We have the document. Other cities our size do not have a plan like this. And for the folks that live out there on Haber and all that, I get it. I grew up in the country in Clayton. And, I understand you want to protect certain things. But this document is designed to ease the encroachment of a city. If we don't, we've always said, if we don't grow, we die. It's not a zero-sum game. If we don't grow, we don't stay neutral, because costs go up. We're still maintaining everything, and we have to grow as a city. And I'm so proud when I drive around. I drove around and saw those 3 developments with the dirt moving and everything. And so when Amanda said, we're finally working the plan, and I said, yeah, that is exactly what's happening here. It's not luck. It's that, people are recognizing now, and businesses too, residential and businesses are recognizing that we have a plan, and we're not urban sprawl. We're not trying to take over everything. We're not trying to, kill the farmer. We're trying to grow smart, and I think that is going to keep us going on the right path. And I think we need to keep working the plan and not veer off the plan. So I'm going to say thanks to all the staff and the council and the residents too. It's a team and a group effort here to make our city the best that we can. And I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. So let's just keep it going, keep working the plan. So, Mr. Gorman?
I'll move for adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gorman to adjourn. All